Hello and welcome everyone to an Amplitude Studios stream. Today we have a very special stream planned for you. We are going to be talking about the recent OpenDev that we had for Endless Dungeon. And I'm going to be joined by two very special guests today. We're going to be joined by Jean-Max and Arthur, which you'll get to meet them a little bit later. Right now we're just going to be kind of introducing things. I first off would like to apologize for the technical difficulties that we had. It's been quite the past hour, but we're here, we're alive, and things are working for now. So cross your fingers, get some thumbs in the chat. We'll make sure everything works out one way or another. But anyways, welcome in everybody. If you're here for the stream, either you're here because you like Amplitude Studios or because you heard that we were having this OpenDev debrief. Either way, we're happy to have you here, and just a kind of idea of what we're going to be doing today is basically we're going to be talking about the previous OpenDev that we had and discussing some of the topics that you, the community, were interested in and had some feedback for us on. So basically what we've done is we've taken the most important topics that we received on Games Together for that OpenDev, and we're going to go through them step by step, each one kind of from the most pressing issues to some of the more niche things or ideas that people have had, and we'll just kind of talk about them. The designers will be able to tell us maybe if certain things are feasible or not, and if you do have any questions during the stream, if we're talking and something just piques your interest, feel free to put your question in the chat. Make sure to @ us, at Amplitude Studios, in the chat, and if we have time at the end, we will get to your questions as well. I'm sure that we will probably have time. But anyways, without further ado, our guests are ready, so I'm going to have them join us here shortly. But just in case you forgot anything about the OpenDev, we're going to play just a little short video here, and we'll be back with you shortly.
You? Nah, you don't have what it takes. You'll be back here too scared to try again, 'cause the dungeon will turn you into lunch meat, unless you're way tougher than you look. We got the guns, the turrets, the upgrades. But what you really need is guts and skills. Grab your posse and say your prayers. Be the first to play, to die, to give your feedback. Do you have what it takes?
And just like magic, we're back. Let's go. I would say that was probably the quickest change we've ever done. What do you think?
Pretty
magic.
Yeah, pretty swift.
So smooth. Things going so smoothly today. I'm so happy about that. But anyways, I am joined by two very special guests. Some of them you might already recognize. We've had Jean-Max on the stream several times now. You've become quite the repeat guest.
Yes.
So it's good to have you back here. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good, thank you.
Yeah?
Thank you, yes.
Good.
And the game is going very well, so.
Excellent to hear. I think I saw you all in a meeting earlier today, so.
Yes, yes.
Looked pretty intense, you know. Welcome in Silver, Luke, Drosden, everybody else who's just joining us in the stream. We're sorry we're a little bit late, but I'm joined by two very special guests. The other guest here is Arthur.
Hello.
Arthur is our lead game designer on Endless Dungeon. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? I think this is the first time we've had you on stream, actually.
Yeah, on public stream,
for
yes. Me. That's true. I'm working at Amplitude for almost 10 years now. So I was the game designer of Dungeon of the Endless, and I worked on Endless Space 2 and Humankind, and now for several years, obviously, on Endless Dungeon.
Very cool.
Yes.
That's awesome. I actually didn't realize that you had been here that long. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, it is a pleasure to have both of you. I guess without further ado, let's start hopping into some of the topics. Would you all like to say anything about the first OpenDev? I know we've talked about it a little bit on stream, but maybe you could share some more insight on how it was for us, and maybe some things that we feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, very quickly, high-level thoughts. Actually, it's funny because the game clicked quite shortly before the OpenDev.
Yeah.
And that was basically when we introduced the real-time elements. And so that's what made the whole game, fit the vision that we had in the beginning, although, it implied making some changes to what we thought would be the final recipe. And so the first OpenDev was really, this very, very high-stake thing where all of a sudden it's not yours anymore and you put it in the player's hands. And the reception was really good. We showed the game we showed the same build at some game shows. Reception was very good. Of course, all the feedback was incredibly precious and constructive. So we're hard at work. Arthur is the one leading the design changes implied by this feedback. And so we're very confident that we've made some right decisions. We're taking on board all the feedback and criticism. And it's never done until it's done, but I'm very confident that this game will be special.
Heck yeah, I think everybody can tell already that it has something special, it has something unique, maybe even has something that the original Dungeon of the Endless didn't have. And I think in some ways some people are maybe a bit sad about that, but I do think that as we as a studio push forward into the future, I think that it's important to grow and to move on to new things, and I think that's embodied.
Yeah,
yes.
we really want to explore new things with this game, and obviously we have all the legacy of the Dungeon of the Endless with us, and we love the idea to have the iconic elements of the first one and use a lot of very cool and fresh features of the first one. But it's also a very enjoyable thing to be able to explore new things, like the way you will explore this space station, mysterious space station. For us, it was a very mysterious past sometimes, because we still trying to find the right balance between the tactical and action in this game, and we're really happy with the place where we are today. But it was really an exploration for us during all these years.
And bear in mind, if you're a Dottie fan, well, we are too, and we really, in the beginning, we were almost too protective of its legacy, and we made some choices that ended up being not fun. So there's, a friend of mine used to say, you always find your best idea during production, and that's exactly, what happened. And it is by taking a decision that felt very counterintuitive that we actually, we call that, we were looking for what we call the Philosopher's Stone. And when we introduced that into the game, although it was a counterintuitive, and it will be to some of the, early fans of Dungeon of the Endless, that's where, instantly the game became fun, and everyone thought it was the definite right choice to make.
Yeah, I got to go to Gamescom, so I did hear some of this feedback, which it was very interesting. You'd have people that have never played Dungeon of the Endless that would come in, and I would kind of be, prepared to be like, so how did you like the, timer as, the waves came? And I would always be surprised, certain people would be like, oh yeah, like, It was so exciting, you know. They compared it to different other tower defense games where you have a timer and you know there's stuff coming, or other sorts of, you know, defending a building type games. And so it was really cool to see that my bias was very much there too, where I had played Dungeon of the Endless and I was kind of like in there like, I don't think people are going to like this, but a lot of people really did.
No, it's. I mean, one thing has not changed. You know, this is a thinking person's game. You know, although when you look at the footage, it looks like, you know, it's kind of frenzy action all over.
There's lots of effects
there's
that are
actually
happening.
a lot of tactical, almost strategic layer of non-interactive thinking going on in the player's head at all times. So, you know, yes, we're moving to consoles. Yes, we're adding real-time elements, but you know, this is very far from a mindless action game.
Yeah, definitely. I think that does bring us into probably the biggest section of feedback, which, by the way, hello Rohan and Harley, welcome into the stream. To anybody else that's joining the stream, welcome in. I'm talking with two of our developers, and we're going to start going into some of the more pressing bits of feedback from the OpenDev. Good old Edgar, how are you doing today? But anyways, the first real topic of feedback is the real-time waves. Some people have said that they really don't like the waves, and they've wondered if maybe we're going to potentially bring back doors triggering waves, and maybe different difficulty levels where you have a lesser difficulty level where you can have it be based off of the doors and not some real-time action. Could you speak to maybe those sort of questions or anything like that?
I mean, it's not really the plan to go back to the wave at the door, but we have a lot of lot of place to improve the current system. We will try to improve the balancing. The timer is in fact something that we call an intelligent system that tries to find a good way to entertain you, in fact. Because the timer is based on your action and what you do in the station, and we want to create some pause time and we want to create some frenetic time, and the idea is really to get you to create a tension for you, like when you are exploring the station, but continue to let you have time to think about what you want to do next. So we are improving this intelligent timer, and we are improving the feedback, and we are improving. We giving you a bit more time at the beginning of the game, obviously. And for the difficulty level, it's what we tried to have is a default difficulty level, which will be harder for some of you and easier for others. But basically, what we tried to have is something by default that you need to overcome, and you will have options to ease a little bit your journey in this game. You will have also accessibility options. And run after run, you will unlock things in the meta progression that allow you to go further in the station. And obviously for the people that will be able to get to the end of the session, we have a lot for you in the Game Plus mode with a lot of challenges to change the way you play the game and things like that. So even with a default difficulty, I think everybody will be able to find the right place for them.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, yeah. I know that replayability is a huge thing in roguelike games. Is you can play the same game over and over again, but where does that new spice, even difficulty, Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm interested, you mentioned accessibility in the game. I know that there's a lot of people in our community that are very pro accessibility. Could you maybe speak on any of the ways that you're trying to integrate that into the game?
it's still in progress, so I can assure you exactly what will be able to do in the game. But we really tried to have all the basic, obviously. So we will. Currently working on all the colorblind things.
Yeah.
Sorry, colorblindness issues of the game, and add more option for this type of issues. We will have also options for all the motor issues that we can have with a pad, for example, like when you have to hold the buttons, things like that. We will have a subtitle. We will also have, we think we will have something like a God mode that allows you to deactivate, frankly, the difficulty. I mean, really, a lot the difficulty of the game, in order to let everybody play this game and select their challenges. So that's the kind of thing that we try to have in the game.
That's awesome. I know that 2D Curie specifically is a huge advocate about like screen shake and things like that.
Yeah,
so
that's also some elements that will allow you to deactivate or reduce motion sickness, etc.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll improve that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think there will be a lot of people that will be very excited about that. You know, if you don't have these sort of issues, I think sometimes it can kind of just go over your head. But there's a lot of gamers that want to enjoy games the same way that, you know, other people do, and so it's a huge amount of work, but it's a huge benefit to those people as well.
Totally agree with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I feel like if I can maybe summarize what you're saying is that, you know, with the timers, with the difficulty levels of the game, it's more of a genre question. You know, it's not necessarily that we're betraying Dungeon of the Endless and the opening doors being turns, but it's more about the game being an action game, being something that presses you forward, that has a driving force, you know, pushing you through the dungeon. And I think that that's super cool. Another thing maybe to mitigate feelings of pressure or whatever that we've talked about previously is the ability to pause the game, you know, where you can take a break, you can go to the bathroom, get your, you know, drink or whatever, and there will definitely be ways to, you know, kind of take a chill pill if you need to. Yeah. I know as a streamer that's super important for me.
It's also an accessible option, very, you know, really required. Yeah.
Definitely.
So yes, we will pause in the game will be present in the next version that we can show you. We'll show you.
Excellent. Looks like we have a question here from Harry Lasai. Will it be compatible with Xbox Adaptive Controller? I don't actually know what the adaptive controller is.
I know this special controller. Yeah, we didn't test it right for the moment, but we will try to find one of these controller, which is a special controller that allow you to connect other elements like pedal or thing like that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool product.
It's like a hub, basically a controlling hub for other accessible.
It should. I think it should not be an issue because it's a very intelligent product that's almost work with every game. So I think we shouldn't have too many issues making it work. Okay. But we need to check that for sure.
Add it to the list.
Yeah.
Awesome. So in the same kind of theme, some people have asked about the strategy since it's more action-based. How, you know, we've seen different turrets that are available, but honestly at the beginning you really only have a few turrets available. Some people were wondering about the progression and different ways to unlock more turrets and have more, you know, compelling decisions to make strategically as opposed to, oh, well, I get a spawner, I need to just make a Jellifier and a turret, and a Jellifier and a turret, you know. It seems a bit, maybe like it could be a bit mundane. How are we as the developers making it a strategic choice when you go into the dungeon?
Well, I mean, I'm going to start and you can fill in the blanks. But I think the first strategic choice that you make is about, well, first of all, which doors do you want to open? Spoiler, it's a bad idea to, you know, open the two doors to your crystal at the same time in the beginning. You want to look at the level and basically always imagine the path that the mobs are going to take. So you can block off certain areas and you must restrain yourself from opening certain doors even when you need that extra 3 industry, because that could be the difference between life and death. Which leads me to the second point, which is, well, the economy. You know, do you want more food? Do you want more industry? Do you want more science? Of course, in the beginning, you're going to be like, oh, all I need is industry. I need to build as much stuff as possible. Yes, but that's in the short term. But in the mid and longer run, well, you'll find that those hero upgrades that you buy and those medkits that you buy with food are very important, and so is the ability to research new turrets that deal more damage, that have new effects, that are better suited to certain situations you've encountered before, others that you might encounter later. So you have this level of analysis and decision taking on short to long-term economy. So that's one thing, and then we haven't even talked about placing turrets yet.
Yeah.
So then comes the actual turret placement, which of course in co-op means taking decisions together because the resource pool is shared. Believe me, I've played with a few people that were difficult to play with because what they saw they did immediately. So you're going to need to take some time, discussing stuff. But of course, it's going to require again that ability to picture the path of the mobs, but also identifying the spawners and the types of mobs that come out of them, the elemental weaknesses. Of course, we're going to spice that up by mixing those different monster families and adding new monsters to the list in each family as the game progresses. So we'll always keep you on your toes to always give you enough info to make the right decision, but you have many parameters to take into account. So it's up to you to really, because once in a way you should always feel whether you're gonna be able to beat that wave as it launches. If you have to really fight for it, then the next one's gonna be a little bit worse, and then it snowballs. So I think there are lots of tactical thinking. Again, the actual action part is like a catharsis, a high point, but it's actually your longer term choices that are gonna pay off.
Yes, to talk a little bit more about these turrets and how we will try to improve them compared to the OpenDev version that you test. That's not big changes, but it's still I think important. So basically, the first one is that the fact that we will give you less turrets at the beginning, but several ways to get new turrets very quickly and a bit more randomly. So
even less than what you had in the first OpenDev.
That's true. I mean,
because I believe we had the basic turret, the Jellifier, the shield, and is it just those three?
That's it?
No, I think we have a fourth one. I'm not even sure.
Jellifier basic, shield.
I think it was just those three.
Yeah.
I think it's
because you have to
three.
research another one to get more.
So what we are trying to do is to have maybe even one or two turrets only, but give you very quickly the research ability with a very cheaper first research. I mean, the 2 or 3 first research will be very less expensive, and you will be able to use the research machine several times, and the monsters will not be able to destroy them completely. So that's one of the big change, is that the fact that monster will be able to deactivate the machine and cancel your research if you don't defend it.
If they overwhelm the machine, they can deactivate it,
but
it doesn't
but not
get
destroy it. So you can still, the game is not over. You can still invest because the price is very small chip, and so you are able to reinverse very quickly in the same machine, and the idea is really to give you a strong roster of turrets very quickly in the game, but not the same at each game. So we want you to try all the weaponaries and things like that we have in the game, and we obviously have still a lot of turrets to show you for the final game. So the idea is obviously to have different response to different situations in this game.
Right.
And it's just, as Jean-Max was saying, it's just one very small slice of the big cake of the tactical decision that you have to take in this game.
I actually really like that. Obviously, I've played the heck out of Dungeon of the Endless, and thinking about it, you only have the prisoner prod, really. Yeah. And so that actually feels like much more true to Dungeon of the Endless, where you start off and you're like, okay, I have like one turret, but I need to start researching fast so that I can get more turrets. And you really do. I mean, depending on the playthrough in Dungeon of the Endless, you could play with vastly different turrets, like just depending on what ones were available at the time, because you don't always want to be refreshing because it wastes your science. And I like that. I mean, it always gets me excited when you say like, oh, in the future we're gonna have more turrets. I'm like, oh yes, like tell me more about the turrets. But that's awesome. So this is a perfect segue into another one of the things. Speaking of research stations being destroyed or turrets being destroyed, I think some people in the OpenDev felt a little bit of inconsistency where the turrets could be destroyed, but then they'd come back after one turn, whereas the generators, the industry and other generators, would be destroyed completely and couldn't be rebuilt. Now, as a player myself, I can say that I felt bad about this, where I felt like, oh, I had invested this industry, and it got destroyed. I mean, things get out of hand, like stuff happens. But I think this maybe goes back to your previous point about strategy. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on the reasoning behind certain decisions?
The defense points in this game are very, very important for you to have fun. Basically, as a game designer, I could say that. So the game really becomes fun when we have several things to defend, and we really want you to be very careful about these generators, and that's why we are giving you this really big risk-reward mechanism, because we want you to be sure that you are able to defend it, and you will not be able to, you will not have a second chance with a specific generator. So it's still at the the scale of one zone, so you can still rebound and continue your game, but you really need to be careful about that. So that means that sometimes you have to refrain yourself to build a generator when you are not ready to defend it.
It's one of these moments in game design where sometimes fun is more important than consistency. So yes, the turrets will heal themselves, but the generators won't. But if they did, then we'd cut off, basically 50% of the, maybe not, I mean, those are just up in my head, but a huge part of the tactical thinking. So the other way we could do it is destroy all the turrets.
That's what you want.
If that's what you want, we can do that.
I don't think that people were necessarily suggesting that, but maybe that you could rebuild the generators with an additional cost of paying again.
We thought about it, obviously, but we test both solutions, and we just find the stress that's created around this very harsh decision is some kind of fun.
We're open. We'll always, be listening, and we want the game to be the most fun for the most people. So, but right now, we do stand by that decision, and that also goes hand in hand with having mobs clearly going after those generators. We need to work on the timing of the notifications, the art, being able to I mean, something that frustrates me right now is often I play the game, I get a notification that a generator is under attack, but then I don't know which, and then
And it's also just one nibbler that's like slowly.
Yes,
Yeah.
maybe. So we need to improve that very much. That's for sure.
One more thing about the generator is that the fact that when it's destroyed, it's completely destroyed, it forces you to advance, continue your exploration, change zone, and we want you to advance. We want you to take the decision. Okay, I'm just losing resources right now. It's too dangerous to stay there, and so I need to go to the next zone. That's also one of the reasons.
Yeah, I think that maybe even part of having a part in the tutorial that explains like you only get one of these generators, so like make sure to protect it. You know, I don't know, whatever. You could have something that maybe explains narratively like, you know, require special parts and you can't just keep on making them. I don't know. Even if it's something stupid that doesn't make any sense, like having something that like lets you know the importance of it could even just help. Because expectations versus reality is really what changes the experience, I think, psychologically for most people. If you prepare them for the suck, then they're ready for it, and then they're like, okay, it's part of the challenge and not just something that is, you know, annoying.
Yeah,
That's true.
So, man, we have all these good segues. So we're talking about generators. Let's talk about the two least useful generators in the OpenDev 1, which was the food and science generators. Objectively speaking, I think the community agreed that it just wasn't as useful feeling. And I know you mentioned earlier there's a long-term plan, but having played myself, I definitely felt like the way that the food worked and getting upgrades and your characters could level up, but it wasn't very obvious. Maybe you all could shed some light on plans for the food generator and importance of science and food in the future.
Yes, so it will always be a question of short-term, long-term. We don't want to change that because it was in the Dungeon of the Endless game and it will still be there, but we still have some change in our mind about this food and science. So for the science, it's a little bit about the thing that I was talking just before, is the fact that at the beginning you will be able to make a lot of research because you will have just one or two turrets. So the desire to have new turrets will be maybe stronger. So that's the first one for the science. And for the food, we will we change the way it's already the case in the development, the build, the way you will level up your character. So now no more free level up for your heroes.
Yeah.
So
I think some people maybe didn't even understand that they were leveling up. So in the OpenDev 1, if you killed monsters, you gained experience and your characters would increase damage? Or was it rate of fire?
It was based on the character, so it depends on we knew that it was not absolutely not well feedbacked, and we knew that we have a lot of issues and a lot of improvement in our backlog for that. But still, we thought recently that it's not a good idea to have this passive way to win experience, and so we changed it to give you more the control about that, and it's more endless dungeon style. So now you will only level up your character with food, and you will have to buy one upgrade equal one level. So that's the only way to make your character improve with the devices and the weapons. But you will really feel your character, weaker and weaker if you don't improve them, and you will feel the importance to use this unlock that we see on the screen right now, to be able to reach the end of the station. And obviously in the OpenDev you have just a small portion of the complete game, just with the length of the run, and so that's why also the long-term decision and the long-term investment investments.
You have it. That's a tough one.
Are obviously less visible and less important for the player. But when you will really try to get to the core of the station, I think obviously the more advanced player will see the importance of these resources.
Awesome. That's a perfect answer. I love it. Yeah, I like feeling like you have more important decisions, you know, like, do I level up my character or do I build more turrets? You know, if I have a beefier character, you know, maybe I don't need as many turrets. And so that kind of like, you know, balance is huge.
Yeah.
Speaking of turrets, the ability to destroy turrets?
Yeah.
Is that something that we might see in the future? I know some people in the OpenDev one.
A lot. We see this feedback a lot. Yes, we are currently working on not a destroy option, but a replace option, which seems the most of the case. It seems to be the thing that you trying to do. For example, when you research a new turret and you want to change another one, or when you just take the wrong one, it happens. And so the idea is to give you this tool in the future. And
is it something where you'd pay the difference if you get a more expensive one?
Exactly,
Okay.
you pay the difference.
I like that.
I think it will allow you to change your strategic layout during a zone, and it could really add something. We always, when we are taking this kind of decision, trying to balance the micro versus macro choice. We don't want you to, for example, have to place each turret very precisely in the environment. That's why we have the slots and other reasons. And so that's the same thing right there. We don't want you to do that like an optimization. So that's also why we don't recycle resources, avoid some tedious moment where you will just scrap a lot of turrets and, for example, when you go to the next zone, things like that. So it's really a balance of giving you control, but without creating too tedious actions to do in the game.
That makes sense, yeah. I think some of the times it felt like maybe the positions of the slots in the room wasn't ideal. I think for me, just as I guess a tower defense player or a roguelike player, I kind of take that in stride and I say, oh, RNG wasn't on my side this time. I'll choose a different room further back that maybe has a better choke point or something like that. I know some people felt a little frustrated by that. Like, I have this Jellifier and I have monsters coming from this room, but the slot that I have, they don't actually run through the position. Maybe once it levels up, you can do that, which I found out that you can bait things into the Jellifier to level it up by, being like, hi, I'm Juicy, come over here. And then you could level it up so that it was big enough to do it. So there was a workaround, that I figured out because I played it for a while. But I think in maybe some of these testing environments, people didn't play it enough to maybe realize there are actual strategic ways to work around this. And maybe it would be less frustrating once they get their hands on it a little bit more. Because I don't actually think that that's a problem. I personally think the slots being RNG is actually kind of part of the roguelite experience.
It's the puzzle that we are asking you to resolve.
Exactly, yeah. So, how do you take this room with random...
Sometimes, obviously, what we want to achieve with that is sometimes you can't apply always the same solution. So sometimes the Jellifier is the solution, but another time it's just not the solution. So, for example, some turret slots are in seems kind of in a very bad position, but it's always useful for example, a support turret that can be protected because it's not on the path of the monster. So if you think like that, you will discover that almost every turret slot can be useful in a way, and you just have to change or to select another room or to move your crystal more quickly that you wanted to do because it's just not a good place to be defended. And that's the kind of thing that I understand that it could sometimes be a bit frustrating, but and we will have some very light improvements. With the placement of the turret, more in the middle of the door, for example, like in this image. But
It's a good spot for Agilify.
yeah, it's a very good, and we will try to have more of them. But basically, it's the puzzle that we are trying to.
No, I like it. It's almost like, maybe people need to think more outside the box.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I think not everything can be, super easy. I mean, roguelites are tough. Like, sometimes you're going to have to, try again until you figure it out.
Yeah. And we have a lot of options like this workaround that you're talking about, but also special devices and in the meta progression you will unlock things that will change the way of using some turrets, things like that. So you will have a lot of option at your disposition to improve, to change the way you play the game, for example.
Perfect. I like it. I think that's a good answer. I love Sega. We love you, Dylan. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank everybody who's in the stream right now. Thank you for hanging out with us. Like I said earlier, if you do have any questions for either Jean-Max or Arthur, or both, feel free to @ us in the chat, and we will do our best to answer your question. Now, another one of the things that people had mentioned was the barrels. You have the little barrels in the rooms. Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, I feel like I'm playing Legend of Zelda, I'm smashing pots, it's a great time. I don't mind it. Some people feel like it's a chore. How can we maybe see those barrels as something that's useful, worthwhile? Is that something? Hey, breaking barrels right now, there you go.
It's perfect timing. Thanks,
I know that we've
Etienne.
talked a little bit about maybe some extra purposes that you have for the barrels and how that might tie in with resources that you can get from them.
That's true. So barrels have several uses for us as designer. It allows us to give you something to do during the exploration, give you the feeling that environment can be interacted, not only the doors and the machines, but also the
barrels.
The barrels. That's right. So that's why we have barrels, and also because it's always exciting to get the pellets, the resource pellet that was missing to complete something. So that's why these small gains are very fun. And the version that you tested use the random elements of if you have a pellet inside or not to create something a bit exciting. Some people like it, others don't. So we will change that. We're taking into account your feedback, and we currently have in our dev version something a bit different. So we still have barrels, the same barrels, but some of them have a special feedback on them, a light right now. We'll see what we will do in the final version, but the barrel with resources are feedbacked. So you know that if you break them, you will have resources, and the other one will have no resources in it. So you can only do that for the one that are useful, but we still keep the empty one just to, so that you can see the destruction of the environment when you are, shooting at monsters, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Dark Souls is a good example of this. I mean, almost 99% of like barrels and pots and things that you can destroy in Dark Souls have nothing in them. But dang it, if people don't, roll through every single one of them, it's just fun to destroy things sometimes. So
exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, a subtle kind of like sparkle or light or something, letting you know, hey, maybe this one's a bit more useful. I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Looks like we got a question from Synth Droil. Is there a possibility that the RNG generates an unsolvable level?
I mean, yes, obviously. No. Well, obviously, we don't want that. So if it's the case, it's a bug. This kind of algorithm is very, very complex. So sometimes we have unexpected results. But obviously we have a lot of control system inside the game that's verify the generation to check if it's possible to exit it, and to show you to give you a bit behind the curtain of the generation. In fact, there are a lot of manual work behind the generation of Endless Dungeon, and not all, but I mean the critical path is kind of manually created. We have a lot of templates, and above that we add a lot of generation and randomness, but the very critical information of the level are mostly manual. So yes,
It's a lot of work.
yeah, that's a lot of work for our level designer Nicola, for example, that work a lot on this topic right now. And obviously, with that, we are able to create interesting level design situation and resolvable. Solvable. Thanks.
Yeah.
So yes, that's how it works.
Okay, cool. Looks like we have another question. Can we expect rewards for completing entire rounds, perhaps skins or maybe new weapons? I think that maybe goes a bit more into the meta progression,
Yeah.
which is something that we do want to talk about soon with you, but maybe at a different time. Since today we do want to focus on the OpenDev 1
Yeah.
and kind of what we've learned from that and where we want to change things. But
We still can say that we have a lot for you in this area, so we will give you a lot of reward each time you return to the saloon, and you will be able to customize, and you will be able to unlock new things, new way to play the game, new mods, etc. So it will be a very complete meta progression, I think.
yeah.
And a lot of narration also with quests and a story to discover.
I want to ask you if we can talk about the future, but since we started getting in on the future, I know a lot of people saw the Nintendo Direct. It's the elephant in the room. I might as well talk about it. The Nintendo Direct, some people saw it, and it mentioned that Endless Dungeon will be coming to Nintendo Switch in 2023.
Yeah.
So in some way, the cat's out of the bag a little bit. Obviously, 2023 is a long time period. That's a full year of time.
Not so long, but okay.
But well, not so long in game development.
Yeah, for us, well.
For gamers, it's like a year. But yeah, maybe I don't want to force anything out of you. But
There's,
anything you gotta say?
well, our marketing overlords, your overlords,
My overlords,
also
you're right.
do not want us to comment on that. But as you said, cat is half out of the bag now.
Yeah.
So,
Schrodinger's cat. It's
watch
both-
all the Nintendo Directs that you want and piece the information together.
Cool. I like it. All right. We don't have a ton of time left, but I have some other important questions.
Yes.
People wanted to talk about dust. In Dodie, dust was an essential resource for lighting rooms. In Endless Dungeon, however, it seemed like a rare resource. You had the dust shards instead of the dust resource. Do you have any plans to make that more useful or more available? Is there anything you can mention on that one?
Lots of things are in progress, but I'll
Yeah.
let our lead designer answer that.
That's true. We made some change in our current version. Not very big change, but important one. And I think it's really with your feedback that we changed that. So thanks again for all your time and your feedback and all the people that answer the form, for example. So the change is the fact that we really like the dust shards, the drilling with the crystal, but it's a very big risk that you have to take, and just to power one room in this game, it's not enough. So we decided to separate these dust shards and the dust. So we will not call the first one dust shards, but more like crystal shard or fragment. We still are working on that. But basically, this fragment will give you, like right now, the ability to improve your crystal. With a very big upgrade, we will try to have more, impactful upgrade of your crystal. and it will be very helpful to have one of these shards and use it to improve your crystal and give it a new power, something that will really change your game. So that's the dust or crystal fragments. And we will have the return of the dust, just dust, for the powering of the room. So inside some very special pots or barrels that you will also be able to recognize because they have a different appearance, you will find dusts, and very often and very easily.
Will we also get dust from monsters too, like in Dodie?
No. Only right now, the current version, it is working without that.
This is something that we're still figuring out.
Yeah,
well, so
I'm talking about
with a grain of salt.
Very in progress test, but it has some very good results right now during our first playtest and internal playtest that we are doing every 2 weeks in the studio, for example, and it's really easy. It's just a new resource that you will have very easily, and so that's allow you to shape your layout way more often, your layout of powered rooms, and so with that you will be able to have more often strategic decision, and it's really working. So that's the reason why we are increasing the number of dark rooms in the more advanced level floors. And
that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
I was like, so does this mean we're going to have more dark rooms?
Yeah, you
Because
will have
that
more dark rooms. Yeah.
Feels right, if it's easier to get or if it's a different resource, then
And so
I feel like that adds a lot to the strategy. I know that the ability to power up your whole path to the end, in Dungeon of the Endless was huge. Like, I can power the whole thing. But if you ran out of dust or you got your crystal attacked or something like that and you were low on dust, you took less dust with you and to the next floor, and it was a whole, domino effect.
Well, there was a point in production where we thought we would not be able to have dark rooms at all.
Yeah.
When we, again, making that transition from mouse and keyboard PC game to, consoles day one. There was always this thinking of, oh God, in Dungeon of the Endless, you could just click on a room and the character would go there and then, you could do whatever you wanted in the meantime. Well, in Endless Dungeon, you don't have that because you have to manually, go to a place with your character, hence the introduction of real-time elements. So those back and forth motions through the levels don't feel annoying and boring in the end. That's what we had. We had a game that was, bordering on boring.
Yeah.
So and same goes with lighting rooms, because in Dodie, those interactions were done very, very quickly. Zoom out, light your path, go back into the action.
Well, you could just click on the end when it would light
exactly,
them all,
exactly. So very simple. Here, different. You don't have, you don't see the entire map all the time. You have to move from one room to the next. There were all kinds of different challenges around that, and at some point we were like, well, too bad, but we're going to have to ditch that element. And they made, a comeback.
It out.
Yeah.
We did figure it out.
I like it personally. It feels like an element of strategy where you're like, is it worth getting this extra generator slot, even if it's in a bad position? I have to spend dust.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very good example of what I was talking about here, about the micro management decision that we have to make as game designer and you as player. So right now we have a system that we like with these dark rooms that are not requiring too micro management, management too micro, and because one of the things that we changed is that the fact that you can change your, you can't unpower a room and change your layout, and that's a way to reduce the micromanagement about this feature. But we have surprise about the powering of the room, and some sometimes you will have elements that will change a bit your plan in the future.
Such a tease. Such
Sorry.
a tease, Arthur. Dang. All right, cool. I like it. We have another question, looks like. Are we going to see Golgi Pertiver, the character from Doti?
Yeah. So
Some people have actually asked this.
lot,
Are
yes.
some of the old characters going to come back?
I mean, we kind of you will not be able to play any of the previous cast because it's just not possible with the story. We respect the lore here, so yes, it was not possible to have this
Way different place.
yeah.
Dungeon of the Endless was underground on a Riga,
Yeah,
and Endless Dungeon is on a
far,
space
yeah,
station.
far away. Yes.
Who knows if it's even the same time?
Yeah, who knows? You will have some, clues in the narration of the game, and so we let you discover all of that. But we still have some, reference and some kind of, way to remember some of our best member of the cast. But in the future we'll see. But for the final for the release, we are planning more about references in the text and in the narration than actual way to play them.
Yeah. All right, I know we don't have too much time, so I'm going to try and go a little bit quicker through some of the questions. We'll do some fast-hitting, just give me the answer. Is it coming? Is it not?
Yeah.
Okay, so the character interface, is it going to be better, more more simple to understand resources?
Yes. Better.
A lot of statistics and numbers for the for the geek.
Information about the stats of different characters.
Yeah.
Yes.
What the health, damage, wit.
The overall layout and feel of the interface are there, but the amount of detail and polish is nowhere near final.
Yeah.
Cool.
You have all the information of the world.
Some people want to know if we're going to get melee characters. Would you like to?
It's not planned. It's a lot of work in a game with a twin stick controllers. It's not really easy to do, and it was a bit clunky when we tried. So we prefer to focus on shooting.
Okay. Yeah.
But you will still have some very short range weapon, still shooting weapon, but that will give you the feel that you sometimes need to take risks to get to the monsters.
Get in the action.
Yeah. So you will have a bit this feeling, but without the really melee actions.
So we won't have Skroig in Endless Dungeon, but we will have some very close range heroes that will feel punchy and like you have to get up in the action.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. The merchant. People hate the merchant buying stuff on the floor.
We knew that, obviously, and we hear you, and we change the way you interact with the merchant. Yeah.
Perfect. I like it. Let's see. Additional orders to the crystal. Some people were wondering about after they drill a crystal, the crystal bot follows them instead of going back to the spawner.
It's a very hard issue because sometimes it's better for the crystal to go back to the previous position, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes you want to go to the next position, sometimes you want to protect it and to have it to you, going to you. So right now we have this fallback that it just try to find the nearest hero, and it's kind of work in a lot of situations because often you want to protect your crystal, so you have a hero not so far away. So it kind of work, but sometimes it's true that it's not what you have in your mind. So you need to plan a little bit more the position of the other heroes to be able to give this order of go back to this place, to this door or something like that. But we have in mind some improvement. We don't know exactly what we will be able to do for the release, but we will try some improvements.
Perfect. Sounds good. Some people asked, actually there's a question in chat that I'd like to bring up first. Will character or crystal upgrades be reflected visually on their models? That sounds amazing, but super costly.
Yeah.
I think that having different levels of like the crystal gets armor. If you do like a defense upgrade or something, would be amazing. But that sounds really difficult.
A bit costly. We prefer to have a lot of them, and so have very different combination and replayability. And for that, we need to accept that we can't feedback everything. But you will still have some special effects for some of them that are useful. Like, for example, when you will be able to create special zone around the crystal, and obviously in this case you will have something that will show you that. So some element can be visible, but mostly we want to have a lot of them, so it will be a bit too costly. But we try to improve that compared to Dungeon of the Endless, because as I don't know if you remember, but you didn't see a change in your weapons and equipment, etc. in the first one, and in this one you still see your weapons, your devices that change, and a lot of visual effects, as you can actually can see on the game.
Cool. All right, let's keep on going. What's the point of wit? A lot of people weren't exactly sure how wit affects things in this game.
It's very simply the time to operate things, like to repair the turrets, to level up them, right? As we can see in the picture, and also all the we have a lot of other actions that will use this wit, and we will try to improve the feedback to give you this information in the game. Obviously, we are currently working on a glossary that will allow players to have some answers about some special word that we have in the game.
Perfect. I see we have a question from Sublustrous as well. Will you release more heroes for free? Hero pool is rather small compared to Dota.
Well, there's a reason why there's less heroes in the Endless Dungeon. As you know, Arthur alluded, a hero in Endless Dungeon is much more costly in terms of rendering, animation, effects, everything basically. So we had to really narrow down our focus. As to more heroes in the future, we're focusing on the 8 that we have for release, and who knows? I mean, I'd love to add more heroes to the game, so.
Yeah, I don't know if that is known, I guess, but yes, there will be more heroes on release of the game.
Yes,
so it's not just the 3 heroes that are going to be the ones.
Yes, there's 8 in the release.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was part of the question or if that was understood. So, cool. I got a couple more questions. I'll just keep on hurrying through them. Are controllers supported? I think there was some confusion during the OpenDev 1 survey that I asked. There was some confusion about whether you could or couldn't use controller, or if you needed a controller.
Yes, they are supported, and they are actually my preferred way to play the game.
Mine too, yeah.
But we have.
I'm a mouse and keyboard.
There's there's 2 schools on that.
I will say WASD. You only have 4 cardinal directions, and you don't have the rotation that allows you to go mid diagonal.
Yeah. But the aiming is more is quicker. So it's up to you. It does really play. If you're a dual stick console player. You'll feel right at home. If you're a mouse and keyboard player, you can play it no problem. Both control schemes will be leveled at release.
Custom keybinds?
Yes.
Custom keybinds, you heard it.
Yeah.
I think, it was just not something that was in for the OpenDev 1 build, but it will definitely be in for release. You can change what buttons do what.
Yeah.
I know, me personally, I will change the power-up room button to something else.
And we try to get all your changes to see what we can have like a default layout based on your feedback, obviously.
Yeah, I know we have UX designers that are going to be doing play tests. If you live in France, if you live in Paris, and you want to come participate in a play test, send our community managers a DM, and we'll get you to come to the office.
Yes.
Please. We definitely want to get some in-live testing going on. So, but we realize not everybody lives here in France. So, a future OpenDev focused on the crafting mechanic? Somebody asks.
We don't really have that in mind for this game, but it's always cool to have crafting mechanic. But we have a lot of other features that we are working on. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Future OpenDevs in general is definitely something that we're looking at.
It's something, I mean, the results of the first one were really good for the game and the team, so, there's nothing announced now, but it's definitely something we'd like to do.
Perfect. In-game achievements, people are wondering if there will be Steam achievements as well as Switch achievements. Since it's going to be on the Switch, a lot of people really like the achievement systems.
We'll support all achievement trophy ecosystems based
Xbox
on
trophies.
Yes, based on the platform. Yeah.
Perfect. I like it. I'm not an achievement hunter myself by nature, but I do like the feeling of getting hard to get achievements because it says like less than 1% of people got this achievement. I'm like, yes, special. Oh goodness. Yeah, I have a friend who just 100%s all the games he plays, and I'm like, how? There's not enough time in the world to do this. Like, he plays the Assassin's Creed games, and it's like, oh my God, hundreds of hours per game, and he's done all of them. It's crazy. All right, how do we get access to better weaponry in it? Somebody was watching, I think, people stream it during the OpenDev, and they were saying that it seemed like they got access to better weapons later. I know that's a bit of a meta progression question, so don't feel pressured to say
not
too
only.
much.
We have a progression inside the run with the weapons. In fact, something that is not very visible in the OpenDev version is that we'll have a generated weapon. So we have a lot of very different weapons, but each of them can be a bit different each time you find them, and you will have rarity levels like the action games. So you will have like legendary weapons and things like that. And so as you progress in the station, you will find more and more of these special weapons, and also you will be able to improve your weapons in the meta progression.
So is this going to be represented visually, like by a color system? I know a lot of games use like white, green, blue, purple.
Yeah, on the UI, yes, you will feedback that, yes.
Awesome. I think sometimes maybe it was hard to tell if a weapon was better or not, depending on like the DPS, and like it compared your stats, I think. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes it was hard to really tell if it was an upgrade or not.
Yeah, we kind of improve it a little bit more. I think the way you see the stats and all the comparison tool, but it will be clear, I think.
Perfect, I like it. This is a bit of a question for you two. What is the most surprising thing you learned from the OpenDev, and how will that shape the final product?
Wow,
big one.
Most surprising. Well, I would say the best thing that came out of the OpenDev was that the feedback was not surprising. Because what people identified as weaknesses and things we could improve are the things we thought we needed to improve. And don't get me wrong, it's super valuable to get that sanity check. But top of my head, I can't think of something that was really unexpected. Yeah. Maybe there was?
Not really. I thought a little bit like that, like you, and we really wanted to see how the people will, express themselves about the real time and things like that. And it was not a surprise the way it was, but for me is to see the people really enjoying their time, sometimes way longer than we thought it will.
Yeah, that's actually true. That's the one big surprise. I didn't expect, we didn't expect people to play that build that much and we had people.
Pretty limited
Yeah,
slice.
it
Yeah,
was
but
a
we
very
had people
limited-
on game shows like playing it one day and then coming back the day after to play it again and queuing again to play the same game on a game show where you have hundreds of options, thousands of options.
Yeah.
So it's that was extremely rewarding
Yeah.
and somewhat surprising.
Yeah.
And so, because we know all the meta progression that we have in mind, all the content for the game, it's really, giving us a very good feel about the final game, because we know that we have a lot to offer, and it will be, I hope, a game that you will play a lot.
Cool. And I think the last question I have is, how do you plan to unlock more characters in TED? In Dodie, it was a challenge to survive with them after you hired them. So they're comparing how you'd find a character in the dungeon and you'd have to survive to unlock it for the next run.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that we don't want to reveal yet, but I think since there were so few characters in the OpenDev build, it wasn't a question really, but this person is curious how you'll get new characters of those 8.
It will be simpler. It will be based more on the narration. So, based on the information that you will get from other characters in the saloon, things like that, you will understand how to unlock new characters. But it will be very, easier like in the first game. And what we want you is to have a big panel a large panel of heroes very quickly to give you the feeling that you can combine them and have all their powers, things like that. But we have this small but very interesting quest system that's allow you, when you have the character unlocked, to discover the stories of this character and unlock new small elements for this character in the meta progression. So that's where we offer you this easier way to get all the content of the game, but you will still have some challenges to get to the very in-depth information and bonuses for your characters.
This actually reminds me of a question that somebody asked me at Gamescom that I should have remembered to ask you before, but now that I'm thinking about it, with multiplayer, because there is certain progression in the games, this person was very curious about how it's going to work when you're playing with your friends that are much further behind in the progression than you. They were worried that am I going to be overpowered when I'm playing with my friends that have just bought the game, or things like that. Is there a way that, I don't know if we have plans already to talk about this, but how are we going to balance that?
Yeah, we can talk about what we are trying right now. It's still in progress, so it's just the way we're thinking about that. It's not an easy, obviously an easy subject. So basically the host of the game will decide the progression, which districts are unlocked, which cocktails that you can drink, and all the meta progression that we have for you. But you will use, as a guest or host, you will use your own heroes. So that's the big question. But heroes will not be very, we don't plan to give you a lot of power with the meta progression. It's more about having different way to play the game. Having, it's more like a vertical progression than an horizontal one. So even if you play,
horizontal.
Instead of vertical. Yes.
You're good. I
Each
think we all
time,
knew
every time. So so no, even if you play a lot the game, you will have more options than your friend that just start the game, but you will not be overpowered.
Yeah, in that sense, it's a bit more traditional than some other roguelites out there, that tend to make the game easier with meta progression. Here, we're more like the traditional spirit of giving you more options, which allows you to express yourself in different ways. Maybe you'll find ways that suit your style better, that you find are more easier to you.
Well, I know we had the different pods in Dungeon of the Endless, which people really liked, having a different set of rules, a different challenge, a new way to play the game. So I definitely think if there's more horizontally different ways to tackle the dungeon, people are going to love that.
Yeah.
We have
That's what we're
different
aiming
way, and we have also this feeling that we want to give you is that you have some very limited, sorry, but very important choices to make before starting your run, and you will unlock more options, but you'll have to select some of them at the beginning of a run, and it's in these very limited choices that you will be able to customize a little bit your next run.
Perfect. Well, I think that's all the time that we have today, and I think we've gotten through all the questions. So
Perfect.
thank you very
Thank
much for your
you.
time today. Thank you for
Jordan.
joining. Can you pet the dog in Endless Dungeon? We have one last question.
In the real,
I was like, we can pet the real
yeah,
life
in
dog.
the real one, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is going to be some interesting interactive elements, especially in the station and the saloon itself.
Yeah.
So look forward to the saloon being much more interactive and alive, you can say, than what it was in the OpenDev.
Yes, sir.
That's true.
It's going to be good. I'm very excited for everybody to get their hands on the game again, and sometime into 2023, you know, have it for real. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much,
Thank
John
you very
Master.
much.
You all have been a pleasure. And chat, we will catch you tomorrow for some Humankind at 6 p.m. We'll be back here, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye.